Hi, y'all. Welcome into Basketball by Association. Who's this voice, huh? Hey, everybody.
You're
Arky,
alive. He
Arky
lives.
Shea. That's my name. It's been a minute. Joel Cordes, how are you, sir?
I'm good. So I spread some rumors while you were gone. Typically on
I
the
heard him.
air.
I
Oh,
heard him.
you got all your whereabouts. I was just wondering if you had one to verify. We said you were hot air ballooning around the world. You were doing cartography missions in the Amazon, and I think at one point you had joined a jazz folk band, which turned out to be just a one-man band of you, and maybe the microphone because it is quite outsized today.
The Amazon thing got started because I was just on Amazon all day. That's the thing. And then people thought I was in the Amazon. It's like, no, I was on Amazon the entirety of the day. But don't trust me. I got the back wind. That was the closest to truth, to be honest with you.
All right.
We got ball starting
yeah,
like in a minute, right? Like, let's
Mhm.
get this thing going before tip off. We always give you our preview for what's going down for really to get ourselves on record for all of this, as we
Right.
are. This show has been, I would say, the most accurate of all the shows ever. So let's start going with the Joel C. Cordes. Let's start predicting some awards, some conference champions, and let's go ahead and give out a ring or two.
Some have called us the songbird of our generation when it comes to basketball. This is episode 123. So 123. There are 3 players in NBA history who have logged 123 career playoff games. One of them is my favorite player of all time. That's David Robinson. We can't pick him because he was episode 50. One of the other players we should have been picking, we would have been picking, but Arky Shea, in a lack of foresight at the time, demanded that this player share an episode with another player. And in doing so, he has robbed said favorite, well, maybe not favorite player, but one of his favorites, and definitely from in your backyard, born in the state of Alabama, best player in his college's history. It's not even close. Hall of Famer, multi-time all-star. But you demanded that out of respect to him at that moment, we were going to share an episode with Hakeem Olajuwon. And so we don't get this guy having his own episode today because he's already gotten half a one. We don't get Charles Barkley. I had to go back. I had to go back and listen to episode 34 because, like, man, I don't think we picked Chuck, did we? But I think we did. And sure enough, we split it. So instead, Arky Shea, this episode 123 goes to the third member on the list with 123 career playoff games. He is not as good as Chuck, but a 3-time All-Star, a 2-time All-Defensive Player of the Year. And oh, by the way, he was a longtime teammate of Chuck in Phoenix. That should really narrow it down for you.
I think we've done a Kevin Johnson episode.
And it can't be him because KJ was never on the all-defensive team.
That's probably true.
He did a 7 seasons.
Dan Marley?
It's the Thunder Dan episode. A guy from just up the street from me by a couple of hours went to Central Michigan, and 7 seasons with the Phoenix Suns.
You said multi-time All-Star?
He was a 3-time All-Star.
And a 2-time 3 multi.
2-time all-defensive team player. 7 seasons in Phoenix. 1 long-forgotten season with the Cleveland Cavaliers, except for me because I was a Cavs stan and was super excited when he showed up. And then went to the Miami Heat and did 5 seasons there before 1 final season with the Phoenix Suns, retiring in 2002. So, Thunder Dan, here you go. You are the luminary for our NBA season preview.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, Thunder Dan. I know this is going to be sent to you by many people on the old socials, so welcome in. We'll try to do you proud. Joel, let's get on the record for some of this. All right. Do you want to start with trying to give away some conference championships, find out some finalists, or do you want to...
Let's give away some awards. Let's do the awards first, and we'll get to our winners.
Finally.
Later.
Okay, where are we starting?
Well, let's start right at the top. MVP.
Mm-hmm. I think this is easy for me.
It's easy. Okay.
Yeah.
See, a lot of people have been saying they think it's easy, and if you go where I think you're going, I will understand and not completely disagree, but I don't think it's as easy as everyone's deciding unless we're all just hopping aboard the narrative train, and the league is going to kowtow to that.
Listen. Okay, I won't be long with this because I feel like you're ready to destroy my pick. But I think this is Luka's year. I think this is Luka Doncic's year. I think not only has he had a couple of years to be on the national radar and be performing well on the national radar, he's coming off a really good playoff stretch run for him.
Yep.
And coming into this year, I think Dallas is going to be a pretty solid team, if not a pretty good team, and maybe even be on some high-profile matchups where he'll play really, really well. He'll put up a bunch of numbers, provided he stays healthy. But also this year, man, have you looked at him? This is not potato sack Luka Doncic this year. Like this guy has taken this offseason, at least physically, somewhat seriously, and that could be bad news for everyone that's trying to win this award over him. So I think this is a Luka year, no doubt.
Luka's the front runner. I will not disagree with that. And
he is plus 390 to win the award right now.
All of the reasons you just stated are certainly going to be real factors, and it's going to be hard for him probably not to win. But there are two other players that I think are going to be in this conversation and have a shot. One comes with a giant caveat, and it's the health caveat. And we've yet to see him actually overcome the health caveat. But if he does, he was going to be MVP last year until he got hurt. And that's Joel Embiid with the Sixers. I'm looking at the Sixers roster, and I see them loaded and cohesive in a way that they haven't been before. I see a motivated James Harden willing to fit in, and a guy who seems to be a far better fit with them now. But with all of this firepower around Embiid, I don't see it as firepower that's going to sap from him his touches or his dominance. I think it, in fact, just opens up the floor for him a little bit more. So provided he stays upright, I see a monster year for Embiid, including potentially a historic monster year, which he was on track for, again, before he got hurt last year. They were asking a lot of him. Again, I don't know, but that's one guy that I think has a shot at Luka, a real good shot at him. And he's a
third betting favorite, plus 700.
The other one we've seen before, and here the logic is a little bit different. His team has just enough around him to make them dangerous, to make them a finals potential participant. But they're going to need so much out of him yet again in order to get there. And no, it's not the Joker. I don't think he can get 3 in a row, despite how good he is. He's going to have reinforcements, and people are going to not give him as much respect. I look at Giannis. We're smack dab in the prime. This is a guy who continues to get better and more dominant every single year, and the Bucks are going to be really good. They're going to be scary when at full health. But they're not at full health yet. They've got a lot of guys that are coming back slowly from injury. It seems to be a roster that has kind of a revolving door of injuries throughout the year. They're going to be relying on Giannis a lot, and he's going to bank those numbers. So I don't disagree with Lucas. When I wrote this down, I said Luka or Giannis for me. But, man, I think this is going to be tighter than a lot of people are betting on. I don't think it's the giveaway for Luka. It's just a lot of us have said, yeah, it's his time. But remember, he's still young, and that narrative may come in to go, he's still got time left, and Giannis and Embiid are just a little bit older, and look at how great they are. It's a historic season that's never been replicated before. That can shift the narrative pretty quick.
It could. I think just because Luka may have a shot to have a what I like to call an undeniable season, where it will just be really tough because that offense will be so focused on him getting as many opportunities to look good as often as possible. Mm-hmm. I think if you're just playing the odds on that, I definitely go to favorite. We missed the top 3. If I was going for number 2, by the way, and then we'll move on quick, plus 1,400, he's 7th best on it, is Ja Morant. Like that, there is a really good shot that Ja Morant, for as flashy and as numbers driven as the voters like to be, and as he is Ja Morant.
We got to see 75 games. If you want to sprinkle it
on a little bit more of a longer shot, then I would give Ja Morant a few dollars.
We got to see 75 games from Ja, 75 plus. We can't see 65 or 60 games as has happened, a couple of times. But yeah, I wouldn't put it past. There's certainly the highlight reel mentality. I thought you were going to give me an Obi Toppin pick there.
I've already got him on the list. I've already put money on him. Plus 125,000, by the way, is Draymond. Cole Anthony. Draymond Green's a plus
Draymond Green.
He's plus 100,000. So if you want to throw money away, there's your chance to do it.
Throw punches, throw money, whatever you got to do.
What do you think about Rookie of the Year?
To me, this feels like a much surer thing than Luka.
Really?
And I really think the way the Houston Rockets are built to put up a crap ton of points, they were doing this last year, even without him. Yeah, they're sloppy, they're young, but they're super fun. And adding him into the mix, Jabari Smith, when you've already got Kevin Porter Jr., you've already got, Alperen Şengün doing his thing down low. You got Jalen Green. Jayshawn Tate has been there for a little bit now. Yes. Like they're putting something together in Houston that is a very run and gun, flashy type of team. And we said this when he got drafted. Jabari Smith is a perfect fit for that, as a guy who just needs to be the pressure release valve to knock down shots. But then when somebody makes a mistake, put the ball on the deck and show off that offensive skill set that he's got. My backup behind Jabari Smith is a guy that I really like and is going to have his opportunities for a team that's going to be much improved this year. That's Jaden Ivey with the Detroit Pistons. But I don't think there's enough weapons in Detroit quite yet. They're on the right track. And we'll see if Jaden Ivey gets the type of exposure that a number one pick like Jabari Smith on a team like the Rockets that have got a little bit more flash in the pan, that he's going to get. So he's my guy. I don't know where you're going on this.
I think the Rockets are a great team to sort of keep an eye on, that a lot of people are going to keep on the outside radar to be sort of paying attention to, because there is, like you said, something percolating there. And you didn't even mention the betting favorite, or the second betting favorite, or the third betting favorite. You went with number 4 at plus 650 with Jabari Smith. Yeah. And I'm right there with you. I agree with you for the first time ever.
To quote Derek Zoolander, I don't care what the date says.
You know what, Jabari Smith, the only thing, the thing I like about Jabari Smith is that he fits what 2022 NBA is perfectly. And I think that's going to give him a lot of nights where he does a lot of 10 points, a lot of 14 points, a lot of 12 points. And then by the time you get to the end of the season, remember, to be Rookie of the Year, you don't have to win an all-star like appearance, and you don't have to be the greatest thing in sliced bread. You just have to be pretty darn good the whole year. And I think if he's averaging 14, 16 points a game the whole year, that's pretty darn good for what this class will be. Like a Paolo Banchero might be a little bit better as far as, he may see more touches. He may see more touches in Orlando. Fair. I think that's fair. But I think Jabari Smith has a whole bunch of upside for this year. And like I would take Jabari Smith with my money. And in fact, I already have taken him with my money, just because I think he fits. I think he fits where he is at right now, and in the league he is right now, better than anybody on this list.
The numbers are going to come easier for Jabari Smith,
that's right.
Than
and that's what
Banchero
in Orlando. Because a lot of people aren't paying attention to all the rookies, right? Like, they're not going to pay attention to like Jalen Williams' numbers the whole year, right? Like, or to him as he's playing, but they'll look at the numbers and be like, damn, Jabari Smith's averaging like 16 and a half a game. All right.
I look at what Houston is doing, and it's going to be flashy. It's going to be sloppy, but it's going to be potentially one of those zeitgeist type of teams in a couple of years here, maybe already starting this season. Maybe this is what we're going to look at and say, this was the beginning of it. I see like the old Run TMC Warriors. I see the Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Phoenix Suns, just one of those like really cool teams. Like all of the kids were on board, and maybe they didn't win as many games or, rings as they should have. Neither of them got their rings, but they were just cool and fun to watch. And I see that brewing with Houston. There's a lot of variables. There's a lot, there's some combustible personalities in that group. They're really young and immature, but I like it. I'm on board. You got to have a couple wild card teams in the league. And unlike, the Grizzlies are that defense and that grit and grind, Houston is flash and cash, man. And I'm here for it.
Rudy Gobert is the betting favorite for Defensive Player of the Year, followed by Bam Adebayo. That's your top two. Are either one of those your bet for Defensive Player of the Year? No.
I get Rudy. And obviously, as a Timberwolves fan, I would love for it to be Rudy to get a defensive player of the year with a new team. Minnesota is going to be in real good shape if that's true. I'm a little bit concerned, though, in that I don't want to say Gobert was a system player because he's not. He's shown playing for Team France that he's just as dominant. But he came onto the Utah Jazz as a rookie and was developed there. And once they realized what they had, they built the entire defense. They built the entire team around him. Remember, he was there before Donovan Mitchell. Everything that Utah did was to insulate and then also capitalize off of what Rudy Gobert did. Go into a new team where he's in a Twin Towers system for the first time, although they do a little bit of that with Team France. He did play with Derek Favors a little bit, but that actually didn't work, though Karl Anthony Towns is a much different player than Favors. I just think this year especially, the learning curve and the fact that Minnesota was a very aggressive and competent defensive team last year, but still a huge risk-taking team. They were not like a Quinn Snyder Utah Jazz team where everybody was lockstep and you did your job and you overcame a deficit of talent. Minnesota had more talent than they had execution last year. This is a big change for Rudy Gobert, and that's why I'm not picking him. As far as Bam, he's going to be in that mix. He will. But there's two guys here who you did not name, and I'm going to go with my dark horse. And this is really wishful thinking on my part, yet he is the linchpin to a couple of wishful thinking picks that are about to come.
Okay.
How do you feel about Defensive Player of the Year Kawhi Leonard in a Remember Me tour?
Oh, well, Joe, you know how I feel about Remember Me tours.
Mm-hmm.
We were all up on that Remember Me tour last year before anybody was on those. You know,
on a Clippers team that is loaded with other elite defenders and plenty of plus defenders as well. They are loaded in that category.
He back? When is he back? Will he have enough games?
He is supposed to be back, I think, for opening night. He doesn't have an asterisk around his name. I thought it was going to be
like a couple of weeks into the season, but if he's back for opening night, then sure.
Let's see. The Clippers will rest Kawhi on Wednesday.
Okay, so is that their opening night?
That is. But he's played in preseason. I mean, he's shown up in preseason.
I just thought they were going to sort of slow ramp him up because of this.
Yeah.
So.
I think maybe he sits opener, but
okay,
that's the latest that Roto World has.
He is plus 8,000 to win that award. You want to talk about a dark horse who has better odds than him? Matisse Thybulle has better odds than him.
I get it.
Alex Caruso has better odds than Kawhi Leonard right now. Ben Simmons has better odds.
That's blasphemy right there.
That's blasphemy. I don't hate it, although I do feel like you're throwing your money down the drain. But I do not think it is impossible for a guy that is so defensive-minded, who has not played in about a decade, to come back and to be able to come back. If he's anywhere near the Kawhi we knew before, we know that dude's a shutdown king. Like, that dude is impossible to score buckets against. So, yeah, I think for dark horse, like if you're looking for a legitimate dark horse, like dark horse, like this is like dark web dark horse. Yeah, I don't hate it. That's a huge bang for your buck for something that's actually plausible.
Here's the other guy who is probably way more plausible as far as the betting odds go. Joel Embiid with the Philadelphia 76ers, because, again, he's not going to have to lift the load quite so much offensively when you got Harden kind of fitting in. You got Tyrese Maxey ready to take that next step. Tobias Harris still gets his 16, 18 points a night almost every night. DeAnthony Melton can score the ball. Montrezl Harrell is a guy that would rather just score and rebound than do anything else. Embiid is going to anchor the defense. He's going to get plenty of his points. Again, I talked about him as an MVP candidate, but I feel like he might be so good that he doesn't get MVP because of Luka, maybe Giannis, and we got to give Embiid something. It was the same rationale that I took last year when I thought Giannis might be able to get Defensive Player of the Year because he wasn't going to get MVP. Obviously, went to Marcus Smart instead. But
Joel Embiid is plus 1,600. So it's not obviously the favorite. He's a handful down the list. I don't hate Joel Embiid. That was my initial guess because I do not think I'm with you. I don't think Rudy Gobert wins this award. I don't think it's going to be nearly as key for him to make Minnesota good and look good in that type of scheme than it was in Utah.
All defensive third team? Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't need to.
I mean, he's not going to fall off a cliff and not be good on defense. It's just it's just going to look a lot different. The one guy I had circled, and I don't know why he's so far down, but I do just win the award. Marcus Smart's plus 2,000. And like that's the only thing he does really good consistently, and he's really good at it. And granted, he plays for the team I don't want to, so I'm not going to pick him because I can't have that kind of happen. But plus 3,000, keep an eye on someone who kind of exploded onto the scene and will be a part of a team that'll be pretty spicy this year.
I think I know who you're picking, and he was going to be honorable mention by me.
Were you going to go with Herb Jones?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, okay. Herb Jones is that kid is, as their coaches said, what was the quote last year before training camp, he said, who's the hardest working player yet of the team? He said Herb Jones. The reporter said before camp this year, hey, so last year you said Herb Jones was the hardest working player on the team. So who is it this year? And the coach said Herb Jones. I love Herb Jones. He has turned out to be a real diamond for that New Orleans team, and getting Zion back eventually, it's not going to be the worst thing. This Pelicans team, especially with the revamped, retooled, and resculpted Zion Williamson, they may be something worth paying attention to long term.
He fits perfectly there for what they're trying to build, which is tons of wingspan around Zion Williamson, to compensate for the fact that he's otherworldly athletic, but not all that tall and not all that long. But they've got all these different guys: Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy. They're just Jackson Hayes. They're just big at so many different positions, and they can throw out all these different combinations around. Jonas Valanciunas, obviously a 7-footer. CJ McCollum playing a big point guard instead of an undersized 2. It's interesting. And yeah, Herb Jones is absolutely in the honorable mention. He's so new onto the scene that I feel like he's got to get himself an all defensive team once or twice, and then he's going to get that respect to be in that conversation. But I don't hate it, and I understand why he's probably higher than Kawhi.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the fact that he's like 2.5 times better odds than Kawhi is kind of wild, isn't it?
Right.
But could also be saying just the fact that Kawhi
needs to be healthy.
Coming up like 2 years of not playing, it feels like. Sixth man of the year, your betting favorite is the recently enriched Jordan Poole at plus 375. Do you think he's your sixth man of the year? Do you have another contender, Joel C. Cortez? Because I also have another guy who will be also recently enriched, and he'll be my pick too.
Give me yours, because that was the Tyler one that
Hero,
I did not
baby.
wrait down.
Tyler
Hero's going to start. He's going to start though.
No, he's not going to start the entire year. Like I don't think does he have to start? Does he have to be off the bench game 1?
No, but I think he's got to.
I don't think he.
Don't they have to
start as much?
They have to start fewer than like 30 games or something.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact.
Yeah, I don't know the number either.
I don't. Yeah, I think he's going to start enough because they've slowly been sapping talent the last couple of years, and they need him to. There's no way around it. So,
but he's not as good when he starts.
That has been proven time and again.
So you wonder just based on. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Okay, so you know what? You bullied me into an opposite pick just because of that one fact. Although I will claim it once he does win sixth man of the year when he only starts 4 games. When he starts 4 games this year. I don't give me Christian Wood, brother. I think Christian Wood's going to be a real stud in 2022. And
I do too.
I
think Dallas is stupid for not starting him, and I'm a little concerned that they may realize they're stupid and have to start him too.
Don't
But
try
he
to
would
take
definitely...
another pick away.
No. He's way less of a lock than Hero to be in the starting lineup. I will give you that. I think Hero is going to be there long term, or at least this season long term. But
Christian Wood is plus 650. Okay, he's plus 650 to win the award.
So the two guys that I have been around the block a little bit, and both have had plenty of health concerns. So there's major caveats with this, but they are both in absolute prime position to put up some of the best, most efficient numbers of their career, and certainly great for sixth man of the year. One is going to be Malcolm Brogdon from the Boston Celtics.
Plus 1,200.
Got to stay healthy, but he's playing far fewer minutes, and he's on a team that's going to want him to shoot, going to want him to do everything that he does. Those opportunities are going to be there because they'll need that. The other guy was already in the mix last year, but his team around him is even better. And I think now that he's fully bought in and knows what he's got, and to see the team as a quasi contender again, this is Kevin Love from the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's going to be coming off the bench. There's no way he starts above Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. And I think his body is right. I think a lot of those injuries when they were bad were simply because he didn't want to play on such a bad team. And now they're fairly loaded in Cleveland, but they're going to need him to come off the bench and just knock down shots, get those assists in the full court as the outlet passer, and grab some boards. And he's fantastic at all of those three things.
He's plus 4,000 to win the award, so he's fairly down the list. But
he was in the mix already last year.
I don't disrespect the opinion. I disrespect the opinion. Actually, now that I think about it, I think there are a handful of guys that will be better.
Alex Caruso is going to be in this mix.
Caruso was going to be my first name. I thought maybe Emmanuel Quickly probably has a better shot to be able to do that this year.
I don't hate that. That's not a homer pick. That's a very objective good pick.
That's why I didn't say it first. I said Caruso first. I was agreeing with you for Caruso, and then throw the homer pick. It's the first homer pick I've ever given on the show, ever.
Mark down the date, folks.
But yeah, I think there are a few guys, including the ones we mentioned right before, that probably have a better shot. Kevin Love. I'll tell you this. I do believe this. When you look at the final voting breakdown, Kevin Love's name will be in the top 5 of that list. How far up? Boy, it really just will depend on how good Cleveland can kind of be this year, right? Won't it?
That's a lot.
And I know there's a lot of people expecting a lot more things from Cleveland because of what we saw at the beginning of last year. So, yeah,
here's an unpopular pick. I just want to pick your brain. I know we're a little short on time. We got a lot of other picks to go, but one other name, if they actually have the gumption to bring him off the bench.
Okay.
What do you think about Russ for sixth man of the year? Because I think that's actually a really great role for him.
Let me see if I can find Russ's.
That's a go get me stats role, and that's exactly what Russ is doing and should be doing.
Boy, I'm still scrolling to get Russ's numbers. Because maybe they're not thinking that they'll have the balls. To pull
he's probably everyone's assuming he'll have to be a starter, but
yeah, probably. No, here he is, plus 4,000. I had to scroll back up. So it's the same as Kevin Love, same odds as Kevin Love. I would not agree with
UCLA teammates.
Same odds. Yeah, like if I'm placing a plus 4,000 bet, I'll go Kevin Love before I go Russell Westbrook. But I do kind of agree. Isn't this something like they've talked about? Like they've said, like, hey, we need to play around with this. And they were playing around with it at the end of the preseason. It's like we need to look at him being sort of the captain of our second unit out there. And I love that idea. I love that idea to be able to make that team better. Russell's a chemistry guy too, so I don't know what the chemistry.
I think they'll start him in name, and he'll actually play the 6-man role with the second unit, but he'll start, the first few minutes of the quarter in name to begin the game. That way, they're not disrespecting Russ.
Do you have another award you want to get to before Coach of the Year?
Most improved player. There's a really huge field for this. I'm just going to throw out some names and then give my pick. There's so many guys who are going to be in line for this. Tyler Hero, you mentioned already with the starting lineup. DeJounte Murray going to the Atlanta Hawks. Put up some pretty nice numbers in San Antonio, but I think those numbers come easier in Atlanta and probably go up. A really dark horse guy, Ayo Dosunmu for the Chicago Bulls. He's going to probably start at point guard all year because I'll be surprised if we see Lonzo Ball back. Anthony Simons in Portland is going to put up a crap ton of numbers as the new CJ McCollum next to Dame Lillard. Kyle Kuzma is in for a really big year in Washington. They're going to need him to score and rebound. Both are things he does very, very well. The no-brainer pick is, my guy Anthony Edwards from the Minnesota Timberwolves. But the one I think actually probably gets it, just because Edwards is going to have such a cast around him that his numbers are going to go up, but are they going to go up enough proportionally with all these other weapons in Minnesota compared to what he did last year? I'm not totally comfortable with that idea. So I'm going with Cade Cunningham in Detroit because, again, I think the Pistons, they've got the right stuff in the starting lineup now. It's just a matter of seasoning that. Cunningham was hurt last year a lot, but when he did play, you saw what Detroit saw in him. And I think the weapons that are around him in Detroit, while untested, unproven, they fit what makes Cunningham so good, which is as a distributor and a scorer. And I don't know, I just think he makes a bigger leap proportionally than Edwards, but Edwards is going to be the really sexy pick because he's so darn good, and the Wolves are going to be exciting.
Edwards is the favorite, by the way. The odds are plus 750 for him. Cade Cunningham, I just had a plus 3,500. He's a little down the list.
Yeah.
Wanted to mention this before I get my pick. You said dark horse, Ayo Dosunmu. He's plus 10,000.
Yeah.
Which is the same odds as Jaylen Brown to be the most improved player.
Yeah, I don't think Dosunmu's numbers are going to pop off the page in the same way, but there's a guy who's being handed like a massive opportunity compared to what he had last year.
I think the easy win here, take the plus 1,800 money right now. I think take the Zion Williamson money and run. I think just because he is going to be back on the court, and it's almost going to be like you get a minimum amount of Zion for a minimum amount of time. It's going to look so much better than clearly what was out there last year, because there was basically nothing out there last year at all. So
You're right.
And I like the Anthony Edwards pick a lot. It's just I feel like they're giving you the money right there at plus 18. As long as he doesn't get hurt or eat all the gumbo in New Orleans out of the situation, the dude's there to take the money. So take the Zion Williamson money and run. And he's the betting the favorites are Anthony Edwards plus 750, Tyrese Maxey plus 1,000.
That's a good one.
Jalen Green plus 1,600, then Zion plus 1,800.
Okay.
My Jalen Brunson plus 1,800 as well. So.
Coach of the year, I've got two picks. They're connected because they both, one's in Cleveland, the other used to be in Cleveland. I got Ty Lue from the Clippers, and I got JB Bickerstaff from the Cavs.
Yeah, but you can't pick. Okay, I guess you technically kind of sort of can. So the betting favorite's Chris Finch right now at plus 950 to be the coach of the year.
Yeah. Which obviously I don't hate. please get that award. That would mean the Wolves did what they were supposed to.
But I keep staring at Taylor Jenkins at plus 1,000.
Yeah.
And man, there is a fear that there is like a come to earth moment like in 2022. There's a fear there. But we talked all last season about how this team is young. With enough veteran savvy to sort of be able to anchor the locker room.
Yep.
But they are explosive, and they're the team of the future.
They just don't care. They just don't care. They come out and punch you.
So
here's my hesitancy.
I don't love it, but Taylor Jenkins would be my slight favorite to win that.
I have less hesitancy about a come to earth moment. I think they're legit. They have staying power. But I look at the West, and I think it is head and shoulders better this year than it was last season.
That's probably
across
fair.
So many different teams, because you had the Nuggets completely hurt. Dallas was dealing with issues. New Orleans didn't have Zion. Phoenix kind of walked into what they were doing, but the Clippers were not at full strength whatsoever. Minnesota was not ready for prime time yet. They were just kind of kicking on the door. The Lakers are better than they were last year. It's among the top 7 teams, maybe 8 teams, maybe even 9, depending on how you feel about the Lakers, how you feel about New Orleans. It's going to be a bloodbath, man. And we've said that for a lot of years in the West, but we were not saying that about the West last year. it was really clear that it was going to be a struggle in like the 3 through 7 spots because of the injuries that teams already had going into the regular season.
This West is going to be tough.
Yeah.
And I think to be able to win that award, I think at worst you can be as third in the West.
I agree. And they were second already. That would be seen as a step back, you know,
because
they were second.
I'm saying like at worst this year
Mhm.
that if Taylor Jenkins is going to win it, he's got to be no worse than third.
Yeah.
So is he at least the third best result this year in the West with not San Antonio? They're going to be possibly the worst.
Yeah.
But with Golden State, you know what?
Phoenix, the Clippers, Denver, Dallas is a really big wild card about how good they could be.
I'm going to make the bet right now. I'm going to make the bet right now. Taylor Jenkins. I'm actually putting my own money on it right now.
All right.
Plus 1,000, your NBA Coach of the Year. I hate futures in general, except for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just because like you have your money tied up for like 9 months. It feels like it's like,
yeah.
That's forever. But plus 1,000, that's pretty good return on the value. Okay. All right.
All right. We got 8 minutes left, so we're going to do this in quick fashion. Arky, Shea, the 2 conference finalists in either conference, and then we'll pick our NBA Finals winner before we get to our League Pass specials, which will just be throwing out some names of teams everybody should watch. We don't have to go into why. Western Conference finalists, I do think the Warriors get back. I think this is and I don't want to say the last stand, but as you'll see in a minute, this may be the last big stand for them. I got Warriors and Clippers in the Western Conference Finals because I am banking hard on Kawhi being healthy. And like I said, Paul George being healthy in the right role. They are loaded on that team. People forget Norman Powell, a 20-point per game scorer. They've got Robert Covington to help defensively. You know, John Wall arrives and showed he could play prior to that. Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann got his minutes. Luke Kennard, Marcus Morris and Nick Batum got something left in the tank. Zubats is a good starting center. They're deep and they're veteran and they're built around defense, but they are so switchy and so wing oriented that they're going to give a lot of modern NBA teams, including the Warriors, a crap ton of trouble as long as Kawhi stays healthy.
I love your Clippers pick, and I'll raise you Clippers versus Grizzlies for the Western title.
All right.
I think
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
I think that this has nothing to do with Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole in the face, okay? But I just don't know if this Warriors team is going to be nearly as hungry anymore. And I think that there are teams that are just as strong as them, just as good as them, even younger. And depending on how they match up, obviously I like Los Angeles better than I like Golden State defensively this year. But I think one of those two teams is beating Golden State to get to the finals. And I like a Clippers-Grizzlies finals. And I'm still debating as of this second whether I think the Grizzlies have the muster to get to the NBA finals, but I at least like them to the West.
The Clippers have got something to prove. We talked about that last week on the Pacific Division preview with Raphael Haynes. Eastern Conference, my 2 teams. I hate to do this because, honestly, there's a part in my gut that says the Celtics are so good they're going to be back there again. I'm really concerned about the coaching change right at the beginning of the season.
You should be.
So I'm going to go Bucks and 76ers in the Eastern Conference Finals because, like I've said, I'm putting a lot on Joel Embiid that this is the year, this is the team. We've said this for a while, but I have fewer reservations about this Sixers roster when I look at it than I have in the past. And I think, again, Giannis, I'm looking at him as an MVP candidate and maybe even my front runner. So Bucks, Sixers, you like that? You got the Nets, got somebody else?
I like I'm not picking the 76ers ever again.
Okay.
I think 4 straight years is enough time to get my heart.
Them and the Nuggets, you've been learned.
But I do think both of those teams are probably the 2 best teams in the East. I don't know if it's going to end up that way. And it doesn't always end up that way. I think that there could be a little bit of chaos in the East more than the West this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the team that's really going to upend and make some people uncomfortable, maybe not get through the Eastern Conference Finals, but get to it, I mean, you've already brought him up. I have a little bit of a love affair for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I think that there is a chance they can get through a couple rounds. And listen, I'm a Chicago fan too. I think Chicago can make some people really uncomfortable this year.
You and I both wish good things for the Atlanta Hawks. You know, they're going to be pretty talented.
Atlanta has tried things.
Yeah.
I know Philadelphia is really, really good. I just can't pick them again because they've broken my heart so many times, but they should be there.
Miami and Toronto are still going to be very professional outfits that will capitalize if you make mistakes, you know.
But I do think this year, I think we're going to get a little bit of chaos past just the first round that we might get it. So give me Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals, taking on who I think we'll get back to. It's the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay. So the Central Division showdown there and the Pacific Division showdown. All right. So my NBA Finals, they are linked by the fact that both of them used to play in San Francisco. One of them currently does. I got the Warriors and the Sixers in the NBA Finals. Like I said, I don't know if I would call it the last stand, but I think this is the last ring for the Warriors. And I do think they're loaded enough. I do think that everything that's gone on will actually galvanize them in the end. And I think Draymond might begin to sense that he might not be part of the future and that he's got to play for his next contract elsewhere. And we'll see a different type of motivation there. I think it can be harnessed, but we are seeing the end, but also the transition with all those young players. But yeah, Warriors, Sixers, who do you got in your finals? You mentioned the Grizzlies, maybe?
So
are you going to go smallest of small markets and go Grizzlies, Bucks, NBA Finals?
I really want to pick the Clippers. I really, really do.
Okay.
But I do believe in curses. I do believe some franchises are just cursed. And it doesn't mean, because we've seen the Clippers go to the conference finals recently. But just not get past it.
But Doc Rivers won't be coaching them this time.
With Doc Rivers, that's true. Maybe that is why, Ty Lue's going to win the coach of the year, right? Can I pick a team that literally just exploded onto the market to get to the NBA finals? Give me the Clippers. I think the Clippers are. I think the Clippers are a supreme team when it gets to the playoffs. Defense is so much more important than in the regular season. I think
they have more veteran depth than the Grizzlies do in that type of a dog.
They do. They absolutely do. So give me the Clippers. And in the East, it's simple for me. I think that's actually a 5-game series, and I think Milwaukee wins that.
Wow.
I think that's just a bad matchup for Cleveland overall. So I think Cleveland can cause some chaos, but maybe, as we always say in the NBA, you have to get your heart broken a couple of times before you burst through. And I think this starts those heartbreaks.
All right. I already alluded to it. I got the Warriors repeating. This is the last one, everybody. This is the last one. But I think they can do it one more time against Milwaukee. Giannis has got another couple of finals appearances in his future. Are you taking Milwaukee over the Clippers?
Can I tell you the amount of eyeballs that will be on a Milwaukee Golden State series will be stupid high. Yeah. Like, that will be such a watchable series. Like, there is probably no more watchable as far as the styles of play series. Maybe if Memphis got back in there, maybe if Minnesota perhaps was able to get in there. And, I don't know if people will be that interested in Philadelphia or Brooklyn. Not
it's such a big market.
Just the way they play.
Yeah, it's such a big market, though. I think the numbers will get juiced just by that. The history of the Sixers.
I don't even mean that. I don't even mean the number of eyeballs just in general. I mean just the watchability of that series. It's going to be so pleasing to the eye if that's what happened.
Can you imagine the narrative of Draymond Green potentially in his final games for the Warriors, and it is going to be his job to guard Giannis, and he's either going to be shown to be at the end of his era as a defensive player of the year candidate, or it might be Draymond's huge stand that actually writes him back into the history, into the future of the Golden State Warriors, or opens the door for a monster offer from some other team that sees that and thinks he's got it left in the tank, and the Warriors, as taxed out as they are, go, thanks, Draymond, go get your money. We got these young guys here, and we don't want them punched in the eye anyway, so
Well, soon we
so
are
yeah.
about to look at some contract numbers that don't make any sense at all. Like they make sense to us now, but with what the NBA is going to get from like streaming services, just for example, to get some like 80 games just reported.
Yeah.
I think Milwaukee's got probably the best. If they're healthy, I think they're the best team in the East. If healthy, they're probably the best of almost any matchup they would play in the West. I would be interested if they saw maybe a Minnesota. That could be a really fun matchup with them.
Minnesota's not ready yet. They'll be good,
but they're not ready. They're not going to see them. So, so yeah, I think Milwaukee is your NBA champs.
This is a question for another time. File it away. I'm curious, and we're out of time. We'll do our League Pass specials in a minute, which will just be naming teams. But I'm curious. You're obviously doubling down on the Bucks, and for good reason. But you didn't pick Giannis as MVP. As we get into the season and we see how Giannis goes, we see how Luka's going. I want to revisit that idea of, is there just that much talent around Giannis in Milwaukee?
I think he's just too tall. It's a height thing for me. It's a height.
Okay. He kept it simple. League Pass specials for me, I got 6 teams. 3 of them are obvious. You will be tuning into them or you don't like basketball. Okay. But 3 of them are dark horse.
The League Pass special is we're just set up the segment. You may have already set up in a previous pod. The team that, if it's not your team and it's not one of the big brands to pay attention to, it's always on nationally. Who would you go pay League Pass for to go pay attention to watch?
And that you're probably going to check
teams?
in. Yeah, 8 to 12 games that you might watch of them throughout the season. New Orleans Pelicans, obvious. Zion's back. Minnesota Timberwolves, obvious. Anthony Edwards, now Rudy Gobert, Karl-Anthony Towns, they're loaded. They were a fun team last year. Cleveland Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell, they've retooled. There's a lot of fans in the East who are going to be a little bit wary of the Cavs, like you said. Those 3 are right there. But 3 teams, maybe this gets a little deeper into the weeds. You got to be a little more of an NBA fan, but I don't think you're going to be disappointed when you tune into these teams this year. Detroit Pistons. Houston Rockets. We already talked about quite a bit the reason why, but here's the one we haven't talked about yet at all, and this sounds like heresy to be saying it. Sacramento Kings. Give me De'Aaron Fox. Give me Domantas Sabonis with an entire offseason under their belt. There are some really interesting pieces, as Raphael Haynes and I talked about last week, around them. That makes sense. Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray starting at power forward. The bench is not great. They're still the Kings, but they actually may be very fun to watch this year, and they're going to steal some games on people. That Fox and Sabonis pairing might be like, I don't want to say the best, but it's going to be one of the very top 1-2 punches in the league this year.
I don't have 6 teams because I don't have that much time. I have a 2-year-old, so I did have 3 teams though that I would pay attention to this year. Clearly, for me, the Houston Rockets are on that list. I think that they're the Rookie of the Year is on that list. I think that they are super fun on paper. They were setting up a lot of fun things last year. They're off season. They've gotten rid of a bunch of dead weight, and they've actually brought in a lot of youth. And they're not
so many young guys.
They're going to be fun to pay attention to this year. They may not be very good, but they're going to be a lot of fun to pay attention to. Minnesota feels like a homer pick for you, clearly, but I think it's super fair. I think that's a team clearly that was really, really good last year. Really interesting to watch when they would celebrate in the middle of games and right at the end of games in the middle of the playoffs. It was kind of fun to watch. But again,
you're going to see plenty of Anthony Edwards anyway. If you don't tune into the game, he's going to be all over Instagram and Twitter and Sports Center and all the places. So.
And they bring, the defensive player of the year potentially, and a guy who's won the award before, Rudy Gobert.
Multi-time.
Rudy Gobert on that list. And Joel, I'm going to, I don't know what's just the fairest way to sort of say this, so I'm gonna say it quietly into the mic. You ready? Oklahoma City.
I don't hate it as long as they don't shut everybody down to cheat again like they probably will do.
That was my caveat, which was this is the first part of the season, which we do not necessarily presume everybody's going to cheat, but there is this apparently once in a lifetime type prospect that could be coming out this year. So who knows?
Can you imagine putting Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren together on the same front line?
Yeah. And listen, I know Chet Holmgren's not on that list. That's why I wanted to watch Oklahoma City. I don't like Chet Holmgren as a potential NBA player. Like, I don't think he works. in this league for the most part.
I think he works not as your lead guy, but in your rotation as your fifth guy, which is kind of where he's going to trend towards if they get Wembanyama.
Well, I mean, if they do get Wembanyama, yeah. But I think just you got this dude who I don't know. I think that there's too much of a making big guys point guard-ish, and I just don't think his body type and his skill set, I don't think it meshes like that. Maybe if he becomes less of that, but I feel like I've seen like 9 full NBA minutes of him, and then he got hurt, and and it was in like summer. Like I don't know, man. I don't know. But I think Oklahoma City
health on his frame is going to be a big question mark.
Yes, I think Oklahoma City is another fascinating, young, loaded with picks and lots of youth talent that I'm kind of interested in, right? Like I'll see Cleveland Cavaliers stuff all the time.
Yeah,
I'll see obviously the Knicks and the Bulls. City, like where are you gonna find them? They're not gonna be on any national games.
Give me Josh Giddey, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort all day, every day.
Yeah,
give me that group, and I'll ride or die with that group.
That is a quietly fun team, okay, to pay attention to. Again, they could be a 4-win team, but they're a quietly fun. Like no one will be more interesting to watch that only wins 4 games this year.
Last year, I drove to Memphis to see Ja. There, and I'm going to go to New Orleans. I'm seeing New Orleans against the Blazers here in early November. I'm going down there. I was going to be down there anyway. There is a high probability, if those guys are still healthy, like January-ish, February-ish, that I would drive to Oklahoma City to see that group. Just because I could get in for cheap before they become way too good,
At that point, it's a value pick, really. Like it's like I'm just doing it because
it's worth the gas money.
It costs me more not to go see him, frankly. All right, that's gonna do it for us. Joel C. Cortez, we're done. We've just predicted everything in the NBA this year. Why watch?
Thank you, Dan Marley. Thank you, Arky Shea, for showing up to the show. We will see more of you as the season goes on. Presumably, I don't know when our next one will be. It'll probably be a week, maybe 10 days into the season itself, and we'll start to get those early reactions on the players and the teams that we're seeing and all that good stuff. But this was fun. I was glad to do this with you again. And, you mentioned Jalen Brunson. We mentioned Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickly, and then we let it lie, and that was good.
That's true. I did not harp. All right, this is available on YouTube as well, so go watch the video version and see me looking vigorously through the betting odds on my betting apps. Until then, Joel C. Cortez, I will say goodbye to you. You say goodbye to the good people.
Goodbye to the good peoples, yeah.